sometimes we ignore things we don't understand. Strange calls, odd messages, small warnings that feel like coincidences. But what if they aren't? What if, one night, your own voice calls you, and it's not you on the other end? I don't usually answer unknown numbers. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. That's what I always tell myself. But that night, for some reason, I picked up. It was exactly 10:13 p.m. I remember because I glanced at my phone before swiping to accept the call. No caller ID, no location, just a number I didn't recognize. Hello. At first, there was nothing but static. A soft, crackling noise, like an old radio struggling to find a signal. Then I heard it. A voice. My voice. It was faint, distant, like someone whispering through layers of interference. But it was undeniably me. The same tone, the same pitch. It sent a strange, uncomfortable chill through me. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, my phone pressed to my ear, waiting for the other me to speak again. Then, just before the line went dead, I heard 3 words. Don't go outside. The call ended. I pulled the phone away and stared at the screen. Call ended. 5 seconds. A prank? A voice changer? Someone messing with me? My stomach tightened, but I forced myself to roll my eyes and put my phone down. It was weird, but that's all it was. Weird. I went back to watching TV, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then, just as I was starting to relax again, something outside caught my eye. The motion sensor light in my backyard turned on. I froze. The yard was empty. At least, it looked empty from where I was sitting. The light must have been triggered by something, a stray cat maybe, a gust of wind, but then it turned off, and 3 seconds later, it turned back on. I sat there, gripping the edge of my couch, my heart thudding. The phone call echoed in my head. Don't go outside. I swallowed hard. It's nothing, just a coincidence. The light turned off again. This time, it stayed off. After a few minutes, I laughed at myself. Seriously? You're letting a prank call get to you? I turned off the TV, went to bed, and forgot about it. At least, I tried to. Because the next night, at exactly 10:13 p.m., my phone rang again. The next night, I almost didn't answer. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, when the screen suddenly lit up with an incoming call. 10:13 p.m. No caller ID. My stomach twisted. I stared at the phone, debating whether to let it ring out. But some part of me, the part that needed to prove to myself that this was just a prank, made me swipe to accept the call. Hello. Silence. Then the same soft static. I waited. My fingers gripped the phone a little too tightly. Then, my own voice came through the speaker again. This time, it was clearer. Whatever you do, don't answer the door. The line went dead. I sat up straight. A cold, creeping feeling crawled over my skin. I stared at the screen. Call ended. 5 seconds. The exact same length as last night. A prank. It had to be a prank, but something about it didn't feel right. Then, as if on cue, the doorbell rang. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I turned my head toward the front door, heart pounding. No way. It's just a coincidence. It has to be. The doorbell rang again. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Through the peephole, I couldn't see anyone. The hallway outside was empty. I stood there, barely daring to blink. My apartment complex wasn't the kind of place where people just showed up unannounced, especially not this late. Another ring. Then knocking. Slow. Rhythmic. Not impatient. Not hurried. Just knocking. Like whoever was out there knew I was inside. Knew I was listening. My hands felt ice cold. Then, without warning, my phone lit up again. Another call. Same number. I hesitated, then answered on instinct. Static. Then, don't let it in. Click. Call ended. A shiver ran through me. My legs felt frozen in place. The knocking stopped. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then footsteps, slow, fading, moving away. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, wide-eyed, gripping my phone, jumping at every sound. And when 10:13 p.m. rolled around the next night, I was already holding my phone, waiting. It rang. This time, I was too afraid to answer. And that was the first mistake. I didn't answer the call that night. I just let it ring. My phone vibrated in my hand, the screen glowing in the dim light of my apartment. No caller ID. 10:13 p.m. I stared at it, my breath shallow. Then it stopped. I let out a shaky breath. But before I could even put the phone down, a new notification popped up. One new voicemail. I didn't want to listen to it. Every cell in my body screamed at me to delete it, to pretend none of this was happening. But my thumb moved on its own, pressing play. At first, just static, the same as before. Then my voice, louder this time, clearer. You shouldn't have ignored me. I froze. Now something's changed. Click. Voicemail ended. The room suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. My mouth was dry. My pulse was hammering in my ears. Something had changed? What changed? I sat completely still, trying to listen. And then I heard it, a noise from the other side of the apartment. A tap, soft, like a fingernail against glass. I turned my head toward the sound. My bedroom window. My apartment is on the 4th floor. I didn't move. Another tap. I grabbed the nearest object, a book, as if that would somehow help, and slowly stepped toward the bedroom. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was so light, so deliberate, like someone knew I was listening. I swallowed hard and forced myself to peek out the window. There was nothing there. Of course, there was nothing there. I let out a shaky laugh. You're losing it. Then my phone buzzed in my hand. A text. Unknown number. You looked, didn't you? I dropped the phone. I backed away from the window, heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. My body was screaming at me to run, to hide, to get out. But my legs wouldn't move. Then the phone buzzed again. Another text. I forced myself to pick it up. Unknown number. Don't turn on the TV. My hands were shaking now. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to listen. But then, the TV turned on by itself. Static. Pure white noise. Blinding against the darkness of my apartment. And in the middle of the screen, a blurry shape. Something standing just behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The TV screen flickered. The shape was gone. The phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. It's inside now. I dropped the phone, and for the first time since this started, I felt someone breathing behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I felt it, something standing behind me. Not touching me, not moving, just there. Close enough that I could feel a faint pressure in the air. Close enough that I could hear it breathing. A slow, deliberate inhale. A long, measured exhale. My entire body locked up. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. My phone was still on the floor, the last message glowing on the screen. It's inside now. I clenched my fists. No, this wasn't real. This wasn't happening. With every ounce of willpower I had, I forced myself to take a single step forward, toward my phone, away from whatever was behind me. As soon as I moved, the breathing stopped. The silence was worse. I snatched up my phone and bolted for the bedroom, slamming the door shut behind me. My chest was heaving, my pulse racing. I did what any sane person would do. I called someone. Anyone. I hit the first name that popped up. My best friend, Laura. The phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Hey, it's Laura. Leave a message. I hung up. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I swallowed hard. I needed to do something, anything, so I tried calling the number. The one that had been calling me every night. It rang once. Then the call picked up. static. But this time, it wasn't just white noise. There was something else in the background. Footsteps. A steady, slow rhythm. Getting closer. Then, my own voice. "You shouldn't have done that." Click. Call ended. The air in the room suddenly felt heavier, like I was standing in a space that wasn't mine anymore. My own apartment felt unfamiliar wrong. I tried to breathe, tried to think rationally. This is a prank. It has to be a prank. I opened my call log and tried blocking the number. Error. Unable to block this caller. Okay, fine. I'd get rid of the phone entirely. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and rushed out the door. I'd go to Laura's place, stay the night, figure it out in the morning. I made it to my car and slammed the door shut, locking it immediately. My hands were shaking as I shoved the keys into the ignition. Then, my phone rang. The screen lit up, even though I'd left it in my apartment. Incoming call. No caller ID. I wasn't holding my phone. It was on the passenger seat. Face up. Ringing. I stared at it, heart hammering against my ribs. The ringing stopped. Then slowly, the phone screen lit up again. A text message. Unknown number. Check your back seat. I didn't want to look. I really didn't want to look. But my eyes moved on their own, flicking up to the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw something sitting in the back seat. Not a person, not even a shape, just the suggestion of something, like a shadow that wasn't supposed to be there. Then the car lights flickered, and the thing in the mirror moved. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I did the only thing my body would let me do. I threw myself out of the car. The door swung open, and I scrambled onto the pavement, my palms scraping against the rough concrete. I didn't care. I just needed to get out. I turned back, expecting to see something in the car. A figure, a shape, anything. But there was nothing. The back seat was empty. I stood there, panting, my heart about to crack my ribs. My phone was still lying on the passenger seat, its screen glowing. One unread message. Unknown number. It's too late. My stomach twisted. I took a slow step back, my entire body screaming at me to run, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place, stuck in this moment of pure, electric fear. And then, my phone lit up again. Incoming call. 10:13 p.m. No caller ID. This time, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the phone with shaking hands and answered. "What do you want?" I screamed into the receiver. There was static. Then my voice. "Listen to me." It sounded different this time. Not calm, not cryptic, terrified. "You have to leave. Right now." "I'm trying." I choked out. "What is this? Who are you?" The voice on the other end. My voice was shaking now. "You don't understand. It's already here." I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. The parking lot was empty. Just rows of silent cars under flickering streetlights. The air was still, heavy. Where is it?" I whispered. The voice didn't answer. The static got louder. Then, between the white noise, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Not from the phone. From behind me. It was close. Right there. Right at my back. Every muscle in my body locked up. I couldn't run. I couldn't scream. I could only stand there, holding the phone to my ear, listening to my own voice whisper the last thing I ever wanted to hear. "Whatever you do, don't look at it." The call cut off. Silence. The air was thick, humming wrong. I felt it. Something tall, something massive, something stretching into the space behind me where nothing should be. I squeezed my eyes shut. My body screamed to run, but my brain wouldn't let me. The last warning played over and over in my head. "Don't look at it." The air shifted. The thing moved. I felt its presence shift from one side of me to the other, like it was circling me, like it was waiting. I clamped a hand over my mouth, forcing myself to stay still, to not look. Then, The phone buzzed one last time. A new message. I didn't want to see it, but I had no choice. I lowered my eyes, just enough to read the screen. Unknown number. If you see it, it sees you too. A breath, not mine, brushed against the back of my neck. And I knew I'd made a mistake, because in that tiny, instinctive moment of panic, I had looked. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember running. 1 second, I was standing in the parking lot, paralyzed with fear, and the next, I was in my apartment. The door was locked. The lights were on. My phone was clutched in my hand so tightly my knuckles ached. But I had no memory of getting here. No memory of driving back. No memory of climbing the stairs, unlocking my door, stepping inside. It was like my brain had cut out, skipping ahead like a damaged tape. I stood there, my breath coming in ragged gasps, trying to piece it together. Had I passed out? Had I lost time? Then I noticed something worse. The clock. The time on my phone said 10:13 p.m. I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't possible. I had just lived through 10:13 p.m. The call, the messages, the thing in the parking lot. I had looked. I had seen it. And yet, the time hadn't changed. The phone buzzed in my hand. Another call. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I turned the phone over and placed its screen down on the table. I backed away from it like it was a live grenade, my entire body trembling. I needed to stop this. I needed to break the cycle. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. But when I reached for the doorknob, the power went out. The entire apartment plunged into darkness. The air felt heavy, suffocating. I turned back toward the table, feeling my way through the dark. The phone was glowing. Even with the power out, its screen was impossibly bright, casting sharp white light across the walls, stretching my shadow into something long and wrong. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to run. But then, it rang again. I clenched my jaw. No, I wasn't playing this game anymore. I grabbed the phone and pressed decline. The second I did, the room fell silent. No static, no buzzing, just silence. I exhaled shakily, relief washing over me. Then, a single knock at the door. I froze. Then, another knock. Slower this time, louder. Then another, and another. The knocks grew faster, more frantic, like something was trying to get in. I stumbled back, my mind racing. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Then the knock stopped. I held my breath. The silence stretched on for so long that I almost convinced myself I had imagined it. Then, from the other side of the door, came a sound that destroyed that illusion. My own voice, whispering, "Let me in." I backed away. The whisper came again, clearer, closer. "You have to let me in." I pressed both hands over my ears, shaking my head. No, no, no. The phone buzzed in my grip. One last message. Unknown number. If you open the door, it takes your place. My breath hitched. I squeezed my eyes shut. The whisper was right outside the door now, barely muffled by the wood. "Please." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, the doorknob started turning. The doorknob twisted slowly. I backed away, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Please." The voice on the other side was soft, familiar. It sounded exactly like me. "Let me in." The metal of the knob rattled under an unseen grip. A quiet, deliberate motion, not forcing its way in, waiting for me to open it. I clamped a hand over my mouth. My body felt like it wasn't mine anymore, like something else was already deciding what I would do next. The phone buzzed. Another message. Unknown number. Last chance. If you open the door, you stay. It goes free. I swallowed hard. The whispering on the other side of the door had stopped, and that silence was so much worse, because now I could hear something else. Breathing. Right outside. Right on the other side of the door. I clenched my fists. My mind raced. This was a trick. It was trying to get inside. It wanted me to open the door. I had to fight the urge. I had to ignore it. Then the lock clicked. I gasped. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't moved. But the deadbolt slid open all on its own. My body moved before my brain could catch up. I threw my weight against the door, slamming it shut before it could swing open. My fingers scrambled to relock it. The moment I did, the knocking started again. Louder, more desperate, more furious. I pressed my back against the door, squeezing my eyes shut. No, no, no. Then it stopped. The air was thick with silence. My own breathing sounded too loud. I waited for the next sound, and then a single knock came from behind me, not from the door, from inside the apartment. A sharp, cold spike of fear shot through my chest. No, that wasn't possible. I turned slowly, my entire body trembling, and I saw it, a shape, not quite a shadow, not quite a reflection, something else. It was standing across the room, facing me. Its features were blurry, its form shifting like a mirage. But there was one thing I could see clearly. Its face. My face. It smiled, and then the lights went out. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke up, the apartment was silent. The lights were back on. Everything looked the same, except one thing. My phone was lying next to me, and there was a single text message. Unknown number. Welcome home. I picked up the phone with shaking fingers and turned on the front-facing camera. I don't know why. I think some part of me already knew. When my reflection appeared on the screen, I felt it before I even saw it. That wasn't me looking back. It smiled, and then the screen went black.